Hi all, it's Dion here. I just figured I'd make a video today on addiction and methadone treatment and why methadone treatment can really be beneficial for somebody who's had a heroin or opiate addiction for several years and they can't seem to get clean any other way. When I got clean almost 13 years ago, I was in a hospital setting and I had just given birth to my daughter who was born addicted to heroin. I don't say that proudly, but that was what the situation was. Luckily, my daughter came through okay and she's perfectly healthy today. She has nothing wrong with her. But they actually put my daughter on methadone when she was born to wean her off the heroin that I was using while I was pregnant. You might ask yourself, why didn't I stop using when I was pregnant? The reason why is because I tried to get into detox when I was pregnant, and the nurse that I talked to at the detox facility told me that it was really dangerous to stop using heroin when you're pregnant because it puts you and the unborn baby in a life-threatening type of situation. So I kept using it because I didn't know what else to do. I went and I applied for medical coverage so I could possibly get on methadone while I was pregnant, but I had the medical card delivered to my husband's house because that's where I was living when I was initially found I was pregnant. But I moved in with my grandmother several months later. So I told him, I said, let me know when my medical card comes in the mail. I'll come and get it. Well, it came in the mail, and instead of him telling me it came in the mail, he decided to lie to me, and he told me. Then I got a letter in the mail from the public aid office, and I was denied medical coverage. He didn't give me any explanation why. And at that time, I didn't have any reason not to believe him. I never thought he would lie about something so important, so I didn't question him on it. I automatically thought he was telling the truth and that I was denied medical coverage. So I went the entire 9 months of pregnancy without any medical care or any, treatment or anything whatsoever. And that's definitely not the way to go through a pregnancy, because there could have been a number of things wrong with her, and I wouldn't have known ahead of time what was going on with her medically. The whole 9 months was a really long, agonizing process because the whole time I was just worried about this unborn baby and worried about her safety. At the time, I didn't know it was a girl, but I remember when I found out when I gave birth that she was a girl, I was really elated because I have 3 boys and I always wanted a girl, and it was really disheartening that I finally had a girl and I couldn't keep her. The state took her away from me because she was born addicted. And even though the day that I gave birth, literally hours after I gave birth, I was put on methadone treatment, and I stayed clean from that point on. I had been clean ever since I gave birth. I would have thought that would have been enough for me to get my rights back as her mother at some point in time after proving that I've been clean the entire time she's been born. They didn't look at it that way. In fact, there was a facility that wanted to take me in after she was born, rehab, and they said if I went to this facility and went and got help for my addiction, that that I could possibly get my rights reinstated as her mother. So I went to the place and I was interested in going into this inpatient rehab. But the rehab knew that I was on methadone, and they told me I would have to get off the methadone in order to go into their facility. I told them, I said, that's ridiculous. I said, I won't stay clean then. I said, this is the first time in 7.5 years since I've used heroin that I felt free of this drug. Since I felt free of the withdrawals, free of the mental obsession that I dealt with, while I was using. I said, I feel so good now. I said, it's a miracle. I said, I won't be any good to my daughter if I use again. I said, at least while I'm on methadone, I have a chance of building my life again and being a mother to her. They said, no, we don't give babies back to people that are on methadone. You won't get your daughter back on methadone. And they were very negative. They were very, very negative and very rude to me and made me feel like a piece of garbage. And I just thought, I don't have a chance in hell at getting my kid back. And I don't have a chance in hell of getting her back and keeping her if I get off the methadone, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to stay clean if I was off the methadone. I knew that I needed the methadone in my system to keep me clean. And I just knew that there was no other way that I could do it. And I know that the methadone is the major reason why I've been able to achieve this sobriety for the last 13 years almost, because the methadone did something to my brain that made me feel free from that drug. It totally took away the mental obsession, and it totally gave me the ability to want to live a life free from the obsession of heroin. And I feel so blessed that this doctor that I saw after I gave birth came and saw me and put me on the methadone, because I honestly didn't think that methadone was going to be that good of a treatment, because I had taken methadone pills before, and yes, they took away the withdrawal symptoms, but they never took away that mental obsession that I felt. And I thought that methadone really wasn't a very viable solution to the problem. But after I was on methadone in the hospital, and I realized how absolutely effective it was at controlling withdrawals and the cravings to use, the mental obsession, I was convinced that this was the answer to my prayers. I was convinced that this was the way I was going to get clean, and this was how I was going to get my life back. And I just feel bad that it wasn't enough for me to get my daughter back, because I know I could have been a good mother to her. I know I could have been the kind of mother that I wanted to be, because I was free of all thoughts regarding heroin or any other drug for that matter. I just feel so alive again. I feel like I've been given a second go at life, and I don't want to waste 1 second of it. I want to really make the most of it. That's why I took this course to become a recovery peer support specialist, because I thought, what a better way to give back and to earn an income at the same time than by doing something where I'm helping other addicts who have the desire to want to change their lives. I don't want to help somebody that doesn't want help, because when somebody really doesn't want help and they're not really reaching out for changing their lives at that moment in time, there's not a lot you can do to to save them from themselves. You know, somebody has to really want to change their lives and want to better their situation before they reach out for help in any fashion whatsoever. So I really would like to dedicate my life to doing something that can bring help to people that really want help and really have that desire to change their lives and live a better life. Now I said that when I made the videos on when I had days off, I would show you how easy it is to take methadone and what how it is not an inconvenience whatsoever to be on methadone whatsoever and take this medication. Okay, so today is Sunday, my day off, and this is the final dose of methadone I have before I have to go back to the clinic tomorrow. I go back to the clinic tomorrow and I get my next 13 doses for the next 2 weeks. So I'm opening up the bottle and I have the bottle of water here. So I try and do this on camera here so y'all can see. Okay, so I fill the bottle and down the hatch, and it doesn't taste great, not gonna lie to you. And I always fill the bottle just one more time with water. And I do that to make sure I've gotten the full dose of the methadone. Because there can be, if there's any red left in the bottle, then you know you didn't get the full dose. And even though a couple little red spots isn't going to hurt me if I didn't get it, I just like to make sure I get the full dose. That's just the way I do things. Now, of course, if you are on methadone, you don't necessarily have to do things the exact same way that I do them. And I will show you. Okay, these are the bottles. I number them because sometimes they call you for what's known as diversion. And diversion is when you bring your box in and they inspect your box, inspect your bottles to make sure everything is being taken properly, like it's prescribed, and that you're not selling your doses, you're not abusing your doses, and you're doing everything exactly as you're supposed to be doing it. Now, and you probably aren't looking that closely, but there's only 11 doses here. Or, I'm sorry, 12 doses. That's because the 2 weeks prior to these 2 weeks, Monday was a holiday, so I got an extra dose. So I got 14 doses instead of 13. And that's why this week I only have 12 instead of 13, because I went to the clinic last time on Tuesday instead of Monday. So instead of coming home with 13 doses, I came home with 12 doses because of that Monday holiday. I chose for my pickup day on for my methadone pickup day to be on a Monday, because Monday, sometimes, usually at methadone clinics, Mondays, hold on one second. Sometimes Mondays can be holidays. Usually holidays tend to fall on a Monday for some reason at the clinic, except for like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. Usually a holiday will fall on a Monday, and the clinic is closed, and you'll get an extra take home for that week. So that's why I chose for my take home to be on Mondays, because and the likelihood of a holiday falling on Monday there's a good possibility, and I'll get an extra take home for that week. But the negative is the following 2 weeks you get one less take home, but it all works out, so it's fine. It doesn't really matter to me. It took me a while to get these take homes. Initially, when I first started the clinic 13 years ago, within 9 months, I had a week's worth of take homes. And within a short time after that, I had 2 weeks. But the clinics, the two clinics I first went to, the highest they went to was 2 weeks worth of take homes. Or I think, no, the clinic that I was going to after I got my 2 weeks, I transferred to another clinic, because the clinic I was first going to, even though I had insurance, they were still making me pay like 20 some dollars, like 21 or $23 for what they called counseling fees. And it seemed ridiculous to me that I was paying out that money out of my pocket for something that this other clinic that I found out my insurance would cover the whole thing and I wouldn't have to pay anything out of pocket. So that's why I switched to this other clinic, because they weren't asking me to pay anything out of pocket. And I stayed there until I had like a little over 9 years clean. And that's when I went off the clinic for about 6 or 7 months. I didn't do it on purpose. I went off the clinic because I was getting a ride to the clinic from my father-in-law for like 3 years, and he started to get ill. My father-in-law passed away a couple months ago, and he started to get ill, and he couldn't take me anymore. And I couldn't ask him to take me anymore, because when I didn't know how ill he was getting it initially. It wasn't until somebody told me, that he's getting sick, I shouldn't ask him to take me to the clinic anymore. So I didn't. But consequently, after I stopped having him take me to the clinic, I had no way of getting to the clinic. Because I gained so much weight, and I had been for several years. I hadn't really walked that far, and I lost a lot of my mobility, and I couldn't walk to the bus stop. I couldn't even walk to. There's a Walgreens that was close by my father-in-law's house. I lived in the guest house of his house when I lived there. He lived in the main house. I lived in the guest house, and I lived there with my ex-husband. But my ex-husband was incarcerated at the time, and I was living there alone. And I couldn't even walk to the corner store. My back would be in excruciating pain. I would get out of breath. My mobility was shot. And I knew that if I couldn't even walk to the nearest store, Walgreens, there was no way I was going to make it all the way to the clinic. So I had to stop going. But when I was getting 2 weeks worth of take homes, I would always forget to take a dose. I would always forget to take maybe a dose or two every 2 weeks. So I would take the methadone, transfer it from the bottle that I got from the clinic, and I would transfer it into a different bottle. And I had a box with all kinds of bottles filled with methadone. So when I actually quit the methadone clinic, and I had to quit kind of just abruptly, no advance notice. That's it. I just didn't just stop going, and I kind of forgot that I had all these doses saved up. I was kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I remembered I had all these doses of methadone that I had saved up, and what I did was, I initially started taking a dose. Like, I could go a couple days without taking a dose, and I would be fine. So every like 2 or 3 days, I would take a dose of methadone, and then when I was halfway through the doses, I would do a half a dose because I was on 130 milligrams. And then I would do half of the dose every like 3 days, and I just weaned myself down with the doses I had. I had probably 30 or more doses of methadone, and I just weaned myself down with all the doses I had, and I completely got off the methadone without any withdrawals whatsoever. I just completely weaned myself off, and I didn't do it really strategically or in any specific fashion. I just did it just randomly, like, okay, today I'll just do half a dose, and then I won't do another dose until 2 days from now, and I'll do half a dose, and then I started doing like a quarter of a dose, but I eventually got off the methadone after about 6 months of just. It didn't take me 6 months to go through all the doses. I went through them and sooner than that, but I got off of it by weaning myself off of it using these doses that I had saved up over the course of time. That I had all these missed doses I had, and I didn't go through a single bit of withdrawal. I got off the methadone with smooth sailing, and somebody was on my side when I went through this process, because for me to go through this and not go through any withdrawal or any sickness was just a miracle. It was an absolute miracle. And I happened to be I went to the park one day, and this guy was shooting up heroin in the park. And I said, "Are you doing what I think you're doing?" He said, "Yeah, you want some?" I said, "Hell yeah, I'll take some." I said, "I haven't done heroin in like over 9 years." He's like, "Oh no, I'm not going to give you any of this if you've been clean that long." He said, "I don't want to be a part of bringing you back on this shit if you've been free from it from that long." So I didn't do any. And I went home that day, and I just started to think about it. I'm like, oh my God, I almost used today. That was a scary thought. So when I thought about it, I thought, I got to go back to a clinic. So within 2 weeks from that incident, I was back at the methadone clinic, and I had to start from scratch. And but they don't let you go back at the clinic unless you have opiates in your system. So I took two hydrocodone pills. My mother-in-law gave me 2 hydrocodone pills to take so I would have opiates in my system. They really didn't do anything to me. I don't consider it a relapse because I didn't take them to get high. I took them just so I'd have some sort of opiate in my system. So when they drug tested me, I would show positive for an opiate. And that's how I got back to go to the clinic. But I thought it was ridiculous that when I told them, I said, I was at a clinic for 9 years. Between 2 clinics, I was at this one clinic for like 3 years, and I was at another clinic for like 6 years. And I said, "You mean you're telling me I have to, go and use heroin in order to come back to the clinic?" They said, "Yeah, if you've been clean off heroin and you're not using, we don't just take people back." I said, "But I'm going to use." I said, "If I don't go back to the clinic, I'm going to use. That's why I want to come back to the clinic now before I use." They said, well, we can't take you back until you've actually used," which I thought was such bullshit. I was like, I mean, I have to actually use in order to get some help. But that's the way the story went. And I went back to the clinic, and it took me a while to get take home to this clinic because when I first started getting take homes, they said to me after I started getting take homes, they told me one time, they said that the creatine level in my drug test that I took was off, that it wasn't the right level. So they were accusing me of tampering with my drug test. And I didn't. I didn't tamper with my drug test. I'm clean. And I'm legitimately clean. And I've been clean for almost 13 years. I couldn't believe they were telling me this. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I didn't tamper with my drug test. So I requested after this occurrence, and they took away my take homes when I just started to get them. I said, I want all my drug tests to be observed. I want you guys to have a nurse come in and observe me take my drug test, so you can't accuse me of this. Well, they weren't really keen with that idea. They watched me for a while, but then they said, our office is too busy, we don't have time to always watch you do the drug test. So I'm just hoping now that they don't ever do that to me again, where they accuse me of tampering with my drug test and try to take away my take homes, because if I had to start from square one again with the take homes because of some technicality that wasn't even my fault, I would be really pissed. But since I've got back my take homes again, and I've gotten up to the level where I'm getting 2 weeks worth of take homes, I feel pretty good about things. I feel pretty positive that things are going to go the way they need to go. But I'm going to end this video now because I have to do my laundry and I have a few things I have to do. I didn't intend on making this a real long video anyway. But I will talk to you guys soon. I'll make another video again soon. Take care, and if you want to get clean, it is possible. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So, take care. Talk to you later. Bye.